Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's lecture. I am Teacher Kristen, and today we are going to explore one of the most exciting and mysterious topics in folklore: cryptids and cryptozoology. A cryptid is a creature that people claim to have seen or believed in, but for which there is no scientific proof. The best examples of cryptids include Bigfoot from North America and the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, from Scotland. In this lecture, we'll take a journey through some of the most famous cryptids around the world. We will look at their origins, their symbolism, how people thought they could be defeated, and the moral lessons behind the stories. Some are scary, some are strange, and some tell us a lot about the cultures that created them. Here is our plan for today. We will start with a quick vocabulary section to help with key words so that you can talk about cryptids with your classmates. Then we will travel through several different cultures to meet some famous cryptids. Finally, we will end here in South Africa with the story of the Grootslang, one of the most terrifying creatures in local mythology. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain what a cryptid and cryptozoology is, to describe several famous examples of cryptids from around the world, and understand what these stories tell us about human fears and values. All right, are you ready to begin with some vocabulary? The first word that we'll be studying today is cryptozoology. Cryptozoology is the study of animals whose existence is not proven. So it is the study of animals that we do not know for sure if they exist. We do not know if they are real because we do not have evidence. The next word is pseudoscience, which is a system of beliefs or studies that look scientific but is not based on the scientific method. Some famous examples of pseudoscience include phrenology and astrological signs. The next word is folklore, which is all about traditional stories and beliefs of a community. Last time I spoke about some very famous creatures from folklore, including two creatures from South African folklore, the Kamapa and the Impundulu. The most important word we will use today is a cryptid, which is a creature whose existence is unknown or not proven. Once again, the best examples are Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. Then we have the term anecdotal evidence, which are stories or personal reports that are not based on scientific data. So these are things like witness accounts, when people talk about what they've seen, but they have no scientific evidence to prove what they have seen or encountered. And lastly, the word we will look at is subculture, which is a group within society that shares special beliefs or interests. Some famous subcultures include the Gothic subculture, of which your teacher is a part of it, and cryptozoologists who firmly believe in the existence of cryptids and reject mainstream science. Let us look at the entire study of cryptozoology. Cryptozoology means the study of hidden animals. The word comes from ancient Greek, kryptos, meaning hidden, zoion, meaning animal, and logos, meaning study. Cryptozoology is a pseudoscience and subculture that searches for and studies unknown, legendary, or extinct animals whose present existence is disputed or unsubstantiated, particularly those creatures popular in folklore, such as Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the Yeti, the Chupacabra, the Jersey Devil, or the Mokele Mbembe. Cryptozoologists refer to these entities as cryptids, a term coined by the subculture. Because it does not follow the scientific method, cryptozoology is considered a pseudoscience by mainstream science. It is a branch of neither zoology nor folklore studies. It was originally founded in the 1950s by zoologists Bernard Heuvelmans and Ivan T. Sanderson. Scholars have noted that the subculture rejected mainstream approaches from an early date, and that adherents often express hostility to mainstream science. Scholars studying cryptozoologists and their influences note parallels in zoology and other pseudosciences such as ghost hunting and UFOlogy, and highlighted uncritical media propagation of zoologist claims. Let us look at how the study of zoology was created. As a field, cryptozoology originates from the works of Bernard Heuvelmans, who is pictured here, who is a Belgian zoologist, and Ivan T. Sanderson, a Scottish zoologist. Notably, Heuvelmans published On the Track of Unknown Animals in 1955, a landmark work among cryptozoologists that was followed by numerous other similar works. In addition, Sanderson published a series of books that contributed to the developing hallmarks of cryptozoology, including Abominable Snowmen, Legends Come to Life. Heuvelmans himself traced cryptozoology to the work of Anthony Cornelis Odermans, who theorized that a large unidentified species of seal was responsible for sea serpent reports. The term cryptozoology has existed since the 1950s. Later, in 1983, the word cryptid was introduced. This word was designed to replace the term monster, which was seen as too emotional or sensational. The Oxford English Dictionary defines a cryptid as an animal whose existence is disputed or unproven. This shows the difference between mainstream science, which requires evidence, and cryptozoology, which often depends on anecdotal evidence. One of the most important things to know about cryptozoology is how controversial it is as a subject. Scientists criticize cryptozoology because it does not use evidence or experiments. Instead, it often relies on anecdotal reports, which are stories from people who say they saw something. These stories are interesting but not reliable proof. Many supposed cryptid sightings can be explained as mistakes. People misidentifying ordinary animals like bears, birds, or even floating logs. In contrast, real zoology continues to discover new species each year, but it does so with clear methods and evidence. While biologists regularly identify new species, cryptozoologists often focus on creatures from the folkloric method. Most famously, these include the Loch Ness Monster, Champ, Bigfoot, the Chupacabra, as well as other imposing beasts that could be labeled as monsters. In their search for these entities, cryptozoologists may employ devices such as motion sensitive cameras, night vision equipment, and audio recording equipment. While there have been attempts to codify cryptozoological approaches, unlike biologists, zoologists, botanists, and other academic disciplines, however, there is no accepted, uniform, or successful method for pursuing cryptids. Some scholars have identified precursors to modern cryptozoology and certain medieval approaches to the folkloric method, and the psychology behind the cryptozoology approach has been the subject of a lot of academic study. And now that we have all the nitty gritty of what cryptozoology is and what a cryptid is, we can begin with the really interesting stuff, the cryptids themselves. And I'd like to start with a particular favorite of mine, Mothman. One of the most famous cryptids in American folklore is the Mothman. Mothman is a humanoid creature that was reportedly seen around Point Pleasant, West Virginia, from November 15th, 1966 to December 15th, 1967. Despite its name, the original sightings of the creature described avian or bird-like features. On November 15th, 1966, two young couples from Point Pleasant, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Millette told police that they had seen a large black creature whose eyes glowed red, standing at the side of the road near the TNT area, the site of a former World War II munitions plant. Linda Scarberry described it as a slender, muscular man about 7 feet tall with white wings. However, she was unable to discern its face due to the hypnotic effect of its eyes. Distressed, the witnesses sped away, reporting that the creature flew after their car, making a screeching sound. Over the next few days, more people reported similar sightings after local newspapers had covered the original sighting. Two volunteer firemen who saw it said it was a large bird with red eyes. Mason County Sheriff George Johnson believed the sightings were due to an unusually large heron. Contractor Neil Partridge told Johnson that when he aimed a flashlight at the creature in a nearby field, its eyes glowed like bicycle reflectors. Additionally, Neil Partridge blamed buzzing noises from his television and the disappearance of his German Shepherd dog on the creature. Wildlife biologist Robert Smith at West Virginia University told reporters that descriptions and sightings of the Mothman fit a description of the sandhill crane, a large American crane which is almost as tall as a man with a 7-foot wingspan and reddish coloring around its eyes. The bird may have wandered out of its migration route and therefore was unrecognized at first because it was not native to this region. Due to the popularity of the Batman TV series at this time, the fictional superhero Batman and his rogues gallery were prominently featured in the public eye. While the villain, Killer Moth, did not appear in the show, the comic book influence of both him and Batman is believed by some to have influenced the coinage of the name Mothman in the local newspapers. On December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed and 46 people died. This incident was linked to the Mothman sightings, as many people believed that the Mothman prophesied the fall of the bridge. Some pseudoscience adherents, such as ufologists, paranormal authors, and cryptozoologists, suggest the Mothman could be an alien, a supernatural manifestation, or previously unknown species of animal. However, the latter is highly unlikely, as according to the square cube law, a creature with the 6 to 7 foot height and 10-foot wingspan, as described by Roger Scarberry, would not be able to fly. Whether it is real or not, the Mothman legend continues today, with an annual festival in Point Pleasant and even a film called The Mothman Prophecies, starring Richard Gere. As you can see here, Mothman is beloved by the town of Point Pleasant, and they even have a giant silver statue of the creature in the center of their town. So, even if Mothman is not real, I still think he's pretty cool because where else are you going to find a 7-foot moth person if not in North America? Now, let us move on to the chupacabra. The chupacabra or chupacabras, literally goat sucker from Spanish, chupa sucks and cabras goat, is a legendary creature or cryptid in the folklore of parts of the Americas. The name comes from the animal's purported vampirism. The chupacabra is said to attack and drink the blood of livestock, including goats. Physical descriptions of the creature vary. In Puerto Rico and in Hispanic America, it is generally described as a heavy feet creature, reptilian and alien like, which is roughly the size of a small bear, with a row of spines reaching from the neck to the base of the tail. While in the southwestern United States, it is depicted as more dog like. Initial sightings and accompanying descriptions first occurred in Puerto Rico in 1995. The creature has since been reported as far north as Maine, as far south as Chile, and even outside the Americas in countries like Russia and the Philippines. All of the reports are anecdotal and have been disregarded as uncorroborated or lacking evidence. Sightings in northern Mexico and the southern United States have been verified as dogs afflicted by mange. In 1975, a series of livestock killings in the small town of Boca, Puerto Rico, were attributed to El Vampiro de Moca, or the Vampire of Moca. Initially, it was suspected that the killings were committed by a satanic cult. Later, more killings were reported around the island, and many farms reported the loss of animal life. Each of the animals was reported to have had its body bled dry through a series of small circular incisions. The first reported attack, which was eventually attributed to the actual chupacabra, occurred in March 1995. 8 sheep were discovered dead in Puerto Rico, each with 3 puncture wounds in the chest area and reportedly completely drained of blood. A few months later, in August, an eyewitness named Madeline Tolentino reported seeing the creature in the Puerto Rican town of Canovanas, where as many as 150 farm animals and pets were reportedly killed. The Puerto Rican comedian and entrepreneur Silverio Perez is credited with coining the term chupacabras soon after the first incidents were reported in the press. Shortly after the first reported incidents in Puerto Rico, other animal deaths were reported in other countries such as Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Peru, and the United States. Whether you believe the chupacabra to be a strange reptilian alien creature or a rabid dog-like creature, either way, I do not want to run into a chupacabra in the middle of the night, in the center of a field, in a farm, in the middle of nowhere. I believe that is the stuff that nightmares are made of. Let us carry on and head out to sea. Now, let us talk about one of the most famous and oldest cryptids, the kraken. The kraken is one of the oldest creatures from folklore, appearing in sailors' stories from Norway. It was described as a massive sea monster, often compared to a giant squid or octopus. The kraken is a legendary sea monster of enormous size. It is said to be something akin to a cephalopod and appears in the Norwegian Sea off the coast of Norway. It is believed that the legend of the kraken may have originated from sightings of giant squid, which may grow to 10.5 meters in length. The kraken, as a subject of sailor superstitions and mythos, was first described in the modern era in a travelogue by Francesco Negri in 1700. This description was followed in 1734 by an account from Dano-Norwegian missionary and explorer Hans Egede. However, the first description of the creature is usually credited to the Danish bishop Pontoppidan. Pontoppidan was the first to describe the kraken as an octopus of tremendous size and wrote that it had a reputation for pulling down ships. The French malacologist Denis Montfort of the 19th century is also known for his pioneering inquiries into the existence of gigantic octopuses. The great man-hunting octopus entered French fiction when novelist Victor Hugo introduced the octopus of Guernsey lore, which he identified with the kraken of legend. This led to Jules Verne's depiction of the kraken, although Verne did not distinguish between squid and octopus. Carl Linnaeus, the famous biologist, may have indirectly written about the kraken. Linnaeus wrote about the microcosmos genus, an animal with various other organisms or growths attached to it, comprising a colony. Subsequent authors have referred to Linnaeus's writing and the writing of Thomas Bothelin. That said, the claim that Linnaeus has used the word kraken in the margin of a later edition of his Systema Naturae has not been confirmed. The kraken was described as a many-headed and clawed creature by Hans Egede, who stated it was the equivalent to an Icelandic monster, but the latter is commonly treated as a fabulous whale. Eric Pontoppidan, who popularized the kraken to the world, noted that it was multiple armed according to law, and conjectured it to be a giant sea crab or starfish or octopus. Still, Pontoppidan is considered to have been instrumental in sparking interest for the kraken in the English-speaking world, as well as becoming regarded as the authority on sea serpents and krakens. Denis Montfort published on two giants, the colossal octopus with the enduring image of it attacking a ship, and the kraken octopod, deemed to be the largest organism in zoology. Denis Montfort matched his colossal octopus with Pliny's tale of the giant polypus that attacked shipwrecked, while making correspondence between his kraken and Pliny's monster called the arbor mariner. Sailors believed that the kraken could drag entire ships underwater, but over time, scientists have realized that real giant squids exist, and they may have inspired the kraken legend. The kraken has also become famous in literature and film, such as Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and modern pirate movies. Unlike the chupacabra or mothman, the kraken is partly based on real animals and thus has more scientific standing in the cryptozoology community. Now, let us continue on our journey and return home to South Africa to talk about one of the most fearsome cryptids of them all, the grootslang. The grootslang, or grote slang, which is Afrikaans or Dutch for big snake, is a legendary creature that is reputed to dwell in a deep cave in the Richtersveld, South Africa. The grootslang is described as being 12 to 15 meters in length and to leave a track half a meter wide. Some legends describe it as having diamonds in its eye sockets. In media from the 21st century onwards, the grootslang has commonly adapted features of elephants, such as giving it a trunked, tusked head or four legs. This spawns from the author Carol Rose, describing the grootslang as being as big as an elephant, and conflation with other African legends of semi-aquatic monsters like the Mokele Mbembe, as well as second-hand stories about the Indonesian elephant trunk snake as well. The grootslang is said to be a huge serpent that dwells in a cave known as the Wonder Cave or the Bottomless Pit, located in the Richtersveld, which is said to connect to the sea, which is 64 kilometers away. According to local legend, the cave is filled with diamonds. The cave is sometimes described as instead connecting to the Orange River by a natural pipe through which the diamonds are gradually funneled into the current of the river. The cave projects directly downward for 60 feet until a steep incline, after which secondary passages branch off. The South African journalist and author Lawrence Green describes the Wonder Hole as being located 3 miles from the Orange River near the Annisfontein Spring, and that native folklore describes two white men as descending into the cave to retrieve stones that sparkled like fire. Secondary exploration of the cave only found bat guano. Another account describes only one person as entering the Wonder Hole and returning. This was a prospector who used a cable winch to descend into the cave until he reached a ledge. There he saw tunnels leading further in and smelled a strong scent of sulfur, but dropped his electric torch when bats flew towards him and he had to be pulled back up. He did not descend into the cave again. A large pool between the King George Cataract of the Ochrabis Falls is also said to be a lair of the Grootslang and a source of diamonds. Here the creature is reputed to be coiled around a great hoard of gold and gems. According to a version of the story reported among the Bushmen, the Grootslang is older than the whole world and will protect its treasure for eternity. Another form of the myth states that the Grootslang is a spirit tasked with guarding its cavern from treasure seekers, and that its presence is marked by an overpowering sense of evil. In the book The Glamour of Prospecting, the South African gold prospector F.C. Cornell describes the Grootslang as a large snake said to live within a large rock in the middle of the Orange River, and to take cattle from the river's banks. Belief in this creature is described as ubiquitous among the local Bushmen and some white settlers who greatly fear the serpent. While searching for treasure in the Richtersveld of South Africa in 1917, the English businessman Peter Grayson disappeared after members of his party were attacked and injured by lions, prompting rumors that the Grootslang had killed him. One unverified myth spread online tells of the Grootslang being created by either gods or God at the dawn of creation. But the Grootslang was so powerful and destructive that they split the creature into pythons and elephants, but only one escaped. In the book In Where Men Still Dream, the South African journalist and author Lawrence Green speculates that the legend of the Grootslang originated from sightings of native pythons, which can reach 25 feet in length. Additional details of the myth, such as its size in excess of real pythons and diamonds in the creature's eye sockets, are dismissed by Green as narrative exaggeration. The Grootslang has appeared in a lot of popular culture. It is featured in the Secret Saturdays episode Something in the Water, where it is depicted as a four-tusked, green-skinned elephant with ram-like horns and a spiked snake-like tail. The Saturdays have to relocate a grootslang away from settlements by baiting it with a large piece of pork. A grootslang is also featured in Lumberjanes Volume 3 as a creature creating a massive snowstorm threatening the camp. A grootslang also appears in Kingdom Rush Origins and in Windcraft, a Minecraft-based MMORPG. The grootslang is said to guard treasure and attack anyone who comes too close. It symbolizes greed and danger. Many stories say that people who go searching for treasure disappear into the cave, taken by the beast. The grootslang reminds us that human greed can lead to destruction. Just as people are warned not to chase easy riches, the story warns that there are always consequences for wanting too much. Now, let us conclude. To conclude, cryptozoology is the study of animals that may or may not exist. While it is not scientific, it is fascinating as a cultural phenomenon. Stories of cryptids like Mothman, the chupacabra, and the kraken show us how folklore, imagination, and misidentification can create lasting legends. Even without proof, these creatures continue to inspire books, films, festivals, and endless debate. If you found this interesting, thank you for spending this time with me, and I'll see you again in the next one.